I would like to let everybody know that this event is being recorded. And thank you so much for being here this evening. A couple housekeeping things about the recording for historical purposes, and we'll probably share it afterwards. It might be helpful to, in the upper right-hand corner, to set your view to speaker view, but I will try to spotlight the speakers as well. And as I mentioned to you earlier, if you could change your names, if you haven't yet, change your name to include your class year, that would be helpful too. My name is Maureen Maynard, and I work in the alumni office here at Higgins House, currently here at my home. And I'm so pleased to be celebrating 50 years of the pep band. It's really exciting, or more, as we're finding out now. But this is homecoming week. We're bringing homecoming right into your home and celebrating all kinds of affinity programs, class gatherings. We have social engagements. We have athletic affinity programs. And for those of you, many of you know Janet Richardson. We are celebrating Janet by awarding her, well, the Alumni Association is awarding her the prestigious Goat's Head Award Thursday evening. So we'd love to fill the room to show Janet our love. So just take a look at homecoming and you schedule, and you can find the award Zoom link for Janet's night. It's this Thursday night. And on that, I'm going to hand the program over to Katie Rodriguez, who is the president of the current pep band. Katie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So first off, I really want to welcome you all to this event and thank you for coming. And a special thank you to the alumni office and Maureen for helping us organize everything, as well as a thank you to my other officers. Like Maureen just said, my name is Katie Rodriguez. I'm a junior here at WPI and the current pep band's president. So when I was preparing for this event, I found myself up in the instrument storage closet in Alden. In that room, we have all of these alumni signatures on the wall. You'll actually be able to see a few as we get into the history later on. But these signatures go back as far as 2004, and as far as I can tell, they immediately tell a story that I think everyone here that spent time in our band immediately recognizes. They tell a story of friendship, inside jokes, shared experiences, resets, and one more times, and always a story of family. I went back and read the WPI yearbooks from 1970 to 1975. They were called the Peddler back then. I'm around 20 years old, and it took me, and to me, 50 years is more than the time I've been here doubled. It's hard to imagine anything existing that long, let alone having so much impact on people's lives. But at the same time, looking back at the photos starting in the 70s, while there are many differences, I still see the pep band I know and love today. This pep band has meant more to me than I could ever put into words, and my hope for this event is that we can celebrate the last 50 years and to hopefully prepare for 50 more. That all being said, I'm only pep band president this year, a year that happens to be our 50th or more. And many of you have chances to hear from me all the time. So I am really happy to introduce Bruce Webster, a former pep band president from the class of 1974, to say a few words.
Ooh. Well, that happened quick. So yeah, well, let's see. So I guess when I registered for this, there was a section that said, tell a story, and sort of a couple came to mind, but I'll try to keep them short here. Some of the people here, Paul, Bill, and Wayne, and Judy Nitch probably remember this. But so times were a little bit, I would say, more lean back then. So we definitely didn't do marching. There were no uniforms. I don't know if there are now, actually, but there weren't then. But the one of the things that sort of evolved, maybe not my freshman year, but after that, is we started a cheer that was repeated pretty much at every game, and it basically started with one victim was sort of picked from the audience, and some of you who were there remember who it was, Al Hannell, and who was not a member of the band, but he always sort of volunteered to do the cheer. So it basically with a give W, he would say, "Give me a W," and the entire collection on the bleachers would say W, right? And it included something from the percussion section and probably the brass section let out something, right? Then it would proceed around the bass drum for 29 letters plus 2 spaces, right? So give me a W, give me an O, and so on and so on. So it's sort of like that for maybe a couple of rounds, right? And if you misspelled or didn't include the space, because you had to say, give me a space, you had to go back to the beginning and start all over again. So this could be a tremendously long cheer. And that was not enough. So it became basically a drinking contest pretty quickly, which was, give me a W. Everybody would say W. Al would take a sip of, and it had to be Southern Comfort. So a small sip of Southern Comfort, because 29 letters and 2 spaces is a lot of sips of anything. So that was sort of then that became a tradition for several years, as I remember. And I'm curious whether it continued after that sort of 73, 74 year. And it really was only I remember it only being for the football band. It didn't include the basketball band inside. Judy, I see Judy shaking your head. Yeah. So, and actually that's the other thing back then. We actually, in the year that I was president, we really thought of it as two separate bands. So I was the president of the football band. And as it turns out, my roommate for a couple of years, Bill Tanguay, was the president that year of the basketball pep band. So I don't know how I'm doing time-wise. I can stop there if that's been enough excitement for one night.
I think we all want to hear your stories. So like, if you have more, keep going.
All right, I have one more, which amazingly still involves that guy, Al Hannell. Al Hannell was from a town in Maine called Lewiston, or Loyston, I think they pronounce it there, which is the home of Bates College. And does WPI still play Bates? I'm guessing they probably do. Don't really know. Anyway, so again, back then we had a pretty limited budget. So we had typically a budget for one road trip a year. And we decided on that, my senior year, that we were going to do a road trip up to Bates. So we got there. It was cold. And we're sitting in the bleachers. And so the band was, I don't know, Wayne, Judy, what was it? Maybe 25 people or something back then? Something like that, maybe. We were the only people in the bleachers. But as somebody came over and told us from the opposing side, he said, "You guys are really annoyingly loud." So didn't have there were no sort of locals there that were sitting in the WPI and the visitors bleachers, but we made a lot of noise. And in fact, my memory, if memory serves correctly, they came over and basically told us to shut up about halfway through the game because I don't know what, they couldn't hear the calls on the field or something, right? So it's amazing how much noise 25 or 30 dedicated musicians can make.
May I add something?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is I was class of 79, so it wasn't too much after you, Bruce. Bruce, by the way, did you work at ARP Instruments?
Wow, I did, yes.
You don't remember me. We worked together.
Oh God. Oh yes. Wow. Yeah. And that would have been like
100
in
million
70,
years ago.
77, 78. Yep.
Something in there, yeah, because I took some time and worked there. So anyways, when my group went up to Bates was dry. We were not. I was baritone saxophone. I was encouraged to carry my instrument out of the case, and the case was filled with libations. I wouldn't say our music was good, but we had a great time.
I have a story if you want to hear another one. So we were pretty pathetic, I think, as a band. We were not led by any professor or anything. I saw somebody said Louis Curran, but we had a guy who was a junior, I think, when I was a freshman that directed us. Our best song was Mickey Mouse, and we played it many times in every game because every time there was a fumble or the other side got a point or touchdown or whatever they got, we would play the Mickey Mouse song. That was our best song.
We didn't know what to do when they got a touchdown because it happened hardly ever.
Right? Yeah, same thing.
In the basketball pep band, the band actually got a technical foul one game.
Yes.
Was that for noise or what?
I don't remember the circumstances.
That's a riot.
But perhaps for shouting obscenities at the opposing team.
That's likely. There was also a game against Tufts where apparently we accidentally played while their cheerleaders were trying to do a performance on the floor during a timeout. And the head cheerleader came over and started beating on Tim Higgins' organ to get us to stop.
Is it, those of you that are in the pep band now or recently, is it still the same irreverent group?
So I was in pep band in the late 2000s, and we were still pretty rowdy then, on and off the field. We were causing all sorts of trouble around the campus. We had a house of 16 of us that all lived together for a while. So we were doing things like trying to build a water slide next to the campus library on the hill, and like street jousting and shopping carts. So it was a really fun group to hang out with.
Those slides were what cafeteria trades were for. Yep.
Absolutely.
The newest, latest innovation in downhill sledding, as far as I'm aware, because I guess I'm out a few years now, was large trash bags work really well.
A good thing to know still being here.
We would get inside them. So if you get the big green ones, you literally just step into it and sit down and kind of like pull it up around you. And it's the fastest sled. You don't fall off the tray. You don't and you just keep reusing it. You just hand off the bag. And, we still, when I was there just a few years ago, we still would have, if there was a blizzard or a snowstorm, like pep band sledding. So you can always, you just show up and you know that somebody from the pep band is there and gonna have a great time. And I think for the, are we still too loud? And the answer is definitely yes, I think. We did an away game at RPI, and for some reason in my memory, and if anyone remembers, they can correct me, but I think that we also got yelled at RPI for being too loud too in the stands. So that's kind of funny that, 40, 50 years later, it's the same thing.
They're still jealous. Is the band still student run?
Yeah, we are. That actually kind of brings me to what we're going to do now. Since everyone does know that we are a student-run organization, we wanted to take some time to thank all of our past leadership. Our leaders are really important to us, and they got us to where we are today. So we wanted to say thank you to all of you. And then we also wanted to say a couple thank yous to alumni and our advisor. We have an alumni from 2008, Jace, who comes back and consistently helps our band with all of our drumline stuff and even donated some of our equipment. Yeah, he's great. And so then our advisor, Stephanie, I really wanted to say this thank you. Some of the best advice that I got when I became pep band president was to go to Stephanie if I ever needed anything. And that's been a lot this year because of how crazy it's been. No matter what, if I emailed, Stephanie would get back to me with a thing right away, scheduling a meeting even when she was super busy. So we decided that for Stephanie, our #1 fan and great advisor, that we would donate as a pep band to the Webster Animal Rescue in her name as a thank you for everything that she's done for us. So Stephanie, thank you so much for everything you do.
Y'all gonna make me cry.
Thank you, Stephanie. We love you.
Oh, I love you guys too so much. Thank you. It's the greatest privilege I have at WPI is to work with you.
If we're doing thank yous, I would like to throw in a special, mention for Jace, because I was the first year that we had a pit, and pretty much the only reason we had a pit is because Jace was willing to buy the instruments for the pit, because I think we used one instrument from the school, and everything else, all of those xylophones and drum kits, which are not cheap, were his. So he is a huge, supporter of all things percussion.
And for band camp one year, the whole percussion section for the theme days dressed up as Jace. So they all wore the same, pretty much the same outfit, with slight variations that he always wore, just a button up short sleeve shirt and khaki shorts or something like that. But there was probably 11 or 15 of them, and everyone immediately knew what theme they were dressing as.
Jace was
we
also
did names. We also all introduced ourselves as Jace.
Really threw a wrinkle in the name game.
Band camp is a foreign concept. Would you elaborate?
Yeah. So we would basically the whole band would move to campus a week before everybody else did, even before all the new freshmen moved in. So all of the new members would basically drive up, and you'd see a member of the pep band with their key cards, and they would send an army of pep band members down to their dorm, help them unload all their stuff and bring it into their dorm. And then band camp started for the week. And basically, from breakfast at 9 till officially maybe 9, but then we would do fun events after it. It would just be pep band pretty much 24/7 for the first full week before anybody else came to campus. So it was really you felt like you already knew the campus, knew your friends before anybody else even stepped onto it. So it's just the best time ever.
It's also where we review a lot of the basics for how to march, and where we learn a lot of our show music and marching portion.
The best part about band camp, I would say, is because the dining hall is closed before most regular students move in, we have all the upperclassmen that have off-campus apartments just cook for, all the, people in the band. So you have like 7 or 8 people go to an apartment and eat like 4 boxes of Kraft mac and cheese, etc. And it's a really great way to not only just like, learn your way around the city, but also, meet people in smaller groups than you would otherwise.
And as Stephanie learned last year, it was also a great chance for the officers to bond as we buy several $1,000s worth of groceries from Walmart and cart it around in a vain effort to try and get it to everybody before band camp started.
Hours of sorting.
And camp meals were always a time.
Who wants to talk about The Bachelor? I'm dying for somebody who was there to talk about it.
The Bachelor was so much fun. At first we thought it was fake because the president at the time, she got an email from some exec from ABC. It was like, hey, we need a band for this thing that we're doing, Bachelor Winter Games. And she was like, okay, and it checked out. So we ended up going, and it was during a school day. So we just had to like talk to our professors and basically like, hey, we're taking the day off for official pep band business. So I got to reschedule a final.
It was a 2-hour drive up to Vermont where they were
Yes.
filming it in this really small town. It probably was like, I don't know, probably five square blocks. So we had a report time at 3 a.m. on a school day. So we drove up, we had to get changed on the bus and everything, and they have the whole, show production thing going on. The total amount of time, and so during this time we really practiced a lot because we're gonna be on TV, right? So we had probably a week of practices on that for the music and everything like that. We probably ended up performing for only probably tops 10 minutes. But we did well. And so we were able to be there for the rest of the filming of the event. And unless, I don't know if everyone else has seen The Bachelor, but the Bachelor Winter Games spinoff is just as, if not more, interesting, for a word. And so it was quite fun as a member, even just to be standing there as an extra, already having performed and then just being on TV with all this other stuff going on. And and then I think someone else had said, I think it was Tess or someone else had said, we then as a band, when it aired, we had a whole viewing party of the episode. So we were in AK, just AK just for an hour, just all watching The Bachelor. So that was also when we found out that they used our alma mater arrangement for like their theme song or their national anthem for it. So it was really a surreal experience.
I enjoyed Ethan's
Yeah,
reaction.
and while we were there,
So cool.
and when we were there filming it, they go, we're going to do the anthem, and we're all out there, full uniform, Shakos, everything. And they decide, all right, we're going to do national anthem. So Ethan and Garrett, the drum majors, are like, everyone, take your Shakos off. Like, this isn't like national anthem type event. And they sing this like Bachelor themed anthem to the alma mater. And it's like, everyone put your Shakos back on.
One of the best parts about that was when we were all lined up in the parade block, because we had to set up, a couple, minutes before, like half an hour. The contestants were also in the parade block and they were getting bored. So one of them decided to just,
Mm-hmm.
put on bass 5 for the hell of it. And so we got a couple pictures. That was pretty neat.
I'm still so jealous of that. I'm so jealous still. I was at all the way at the front.
I was playing the bass drum for that, and it was just like, the show doesn't really communicate how tall these people were, but I think they had like a good 3 or 4 feet of height on me, and they just come up behind me and they pick bass 5 up off of my shoulders, and I think it was like the most confused I've ever been in a single instant. And this massive drum just starts going up.
They all looked so much shorter on TV. One of the guys was my favorite, and I thought he was like maybe like 5'8" max. No, this man was 6'2", and I'm only 5'2". So my picture next to him, it's just like, I was so taken
we have
aback.
a clarinet picture with Dean.
Yes.
Pretty sure I crashed that picture.
Yeah. We the president of the pep band, Veronica, was in my senior capstone group. So when she got that email, like we were in a project meeting and we were just like, what? Like we were just like freaking out. This is like before the rest of the band knew, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we have to make it happen. So that was just crazy.
And if you mentioned Shakos, that's hats?
Yeah.
When did the band get uniforms? We had sweaters. Do you know?
I know we had, there were early uniforms that were purchased, I think in the 90s, early 2000s that were used. And those were purchased from another band. But in the mid 2000s, and someone please hop on if you know more accurate information than I do, but in the mid 2000s, we bought uniforms for WPI with the crimson and gray colors. And then when WPI switched over to the red and white, we bought new uniforms for that. And those are the ones we currently have right now.
We had uniforms that I think were bought off of eBay that said Warhorse Regiment on the side of them, that were close enough to the WPI colors that we could pass with them. But then, yeah, we got official WPI uniforms. Yeah, I think it was 2006. We actually, so I don't know if the band still plays Christmas music at the local supermarkets, but that started as a fundraiser for us to get uniforms, and then we got some matching funds from student government or some other place to buy them.
So for anyone who wants,
but now it's a charity event.
Yeah, well, we enjoyed it so much that we kept doing it after we got the new uniforms as a charity thing.
for anyone who wants to see the uniform from the 2006 era, I actually have one. So it had like a black V on the bottom, and then black bib overalls. And then we had these medals for the graduating senior class that we had started doing for a little bit. So that was that. Jake and Derek, during the Warhorse time, wasn't there like, we ran out of uniforms, so the drum line wore Hawaiian shirts or something?
Yeah, so the drum line would always wear something kind of in the theme of the show. There was one year it was Songs of the Sun, so they wore Hawaiian shirts. Yeah, I think that was to make sure that we had enough uniforms to go around. There also weren't enough Shakos to go around, so freshmen would have to wear their WPI beanies.
They downsized the beanies because I know that my beanie was too small to fit any real human's head. So they must have shrunk them at some point between like.
Here's my beanie. You can see it is definitely not the right size.
They've always
actually fit.
I will say about 2 cycles ago, for last year's pep band, we thought we weren't going to have enough uniforms going into the season because the size of the group had grown so much. And we actually had a parent who stepped up and donated enough cash for them to buy 10 more uniforms. So we're very grateful to that family for their support as well. And what a great problem to have, too many peppers.
Yeah, there's a comparison photo between what the band looked like in 2014 versus 2018. I think in 2014 we had like 40 people, and in 2018 we had over 100, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
We actually
18 was about 96, but still pretty. We just passed over 100 last year.
Wow.
If everyone wants to look at it, we do have a PowerPoint of pictures going from like 1970s all the way up till now. There are some time gaps, but I can start sharing that since we've been talking a lot about what we looked like.
I did also just track down the photo comparison from 2014 to 2018. If anyone wants to see that real quick, huge jump. Or you can share the PowerPoint I was just offering.
I mean, we could share that if you want to send it, or I don't have it.
Here. This is on the Pep Shenanigans Facebook page. Here was our band in 2014. Here it was in 2018. So there's that giant jump for you guys.
That looks great. And I guess anyone else who's close to our year lived that giant jump, and it was very cool to see.
It was crazy.
Came in every year.
My freshman year was the giant jump, so.
Getting a huge increase in the number of drumline members in about 2016 made a huge difference, because for a while, part of, I think, what was restricting to our sound was that we just didn't have enough people that stuck around on drums. So we really lacked a rhythm section. That's not a great thing in a marching band. So when we all of a sudden got like 8 drumline freshmen in 1 year, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, I think I'm here, guys. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, I was one of those people. I think there were 10 new drumline members that year. There were 10 of us.
There were a lot of cymbals.
Yes.
No wonder drumline took such a big hit for going into this year.
Are there years for these photos?
There are later on. These were ones that we found without years, so they start here. I think we're gonna get to 1972 soon.
Well, I see
Bill
Bill
Tangway.
Oh, there I'm bottom left. Alto sax, bottom left.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
You look exactly the same, Judy.
Why, thank you. Oh, hey, there's Ralph Desmond in the top left.
Yeah.
Oh, who's the guy in the bottom center with the sideburns? He was in our class, Paula.
Oh,
Mike Hadmack.
yeah. Very good. That's Hadmack.
And is that Tangway to the left? I can't quite tell. Or is that you, Bruce?
That's me, I think.
Ah,
From the nose up, Judy.
you're so cute.
Hey, could you guys back up one slide to the previous 72 picture? It's hard for me to tell at my age, but I think that's me in the bottom right, but I graduated in 71. But that kind of looks like me way back then. This is Dave Weiner speaking. I guess, it does look like
That's Ralph.
there's uniforms. I honestly don't remember us having uniforms. Thanks for backing up.
Forms either.
Oh.
I think the trumpet player on the left behind the music sheet is me. I recognize the pants.
Everything memorized?
I'm really sorry about that.
Those are some sweet pants.
Dial at time.
All right. Yeah.
Bruce, there you are again, right?
It looks like exuberant symbols have been a problem for a while.
That's Bill.
That's Bill. That's Bill.
That's Bill Delaney.
That's me.
And that's Tim
Just
Higgins in the
sitting
top.
in for a day.
There's our drum line.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and the top picture there, you had the uniform jackets, but
okay.
I think whatever, because Tang's got stripes on his slacks.
Yeah. So that picture in the top center for everybody, the guy in the top hat is Tim Higgins, who was the director, and he also played keyboards. And on the left, with the trombone is Bill Tangway, class of 74. I have no idea who's that with the bass drum though.
Oh, I think I know.
And that the picture on the in the bottom there, the trumpet line, Dave Weiner, is that you on the left, or sort of, you know, a quarter of the way over?
It looks like me. It looks like me, the third person from the left, but then it can't be 73.
I think maybe you were visiting or something.
And right behind Tangway with the headband.
Yep. And then Wayne with the hat.
Yeah, Wayne with the hat.
Me.
Yeah. When I saw that, I did say that was Dave Weiner.
Yeah, I was pretty good looking back then.
I forget his name. Yeah.
They have that one.
I remember that girl. Oh, she was a cheerleader. What was her name?
Yeah, we had cheerleaders, I remember.
Oh, there's Patty Flaherty on the xylophone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's Ginny and Denise.
Yeah, sitting right here.
Yeah, right behind her.
Yeah.
Were the cheerleaders part of the band at that time or a separate group?
They were separate.
But they were at the games.
Gotcha.
Now
Some of these faces.
I'm not recognizing any.
I don't recognize anyone.
Who's the big guy on the trombone here?
I'm forgetting his name.
He was a freshman when yeah, he played a mean bass trombone.
He was good, but he could drink. Oh my God.
That's why he was good.
Don't know.
I know.
I'm recognizing faces, but I'm not putting names to them. See the sweatshirts we wore? That was it. That was the uniform.
That must be the fall of 75 because we didn't have those.
Yeah.
I graduated in the spring and I don't remember those outfits at all.
Big jump, 10 years.
Harrington hasn't changed much.
We didn't have any drums for basketball band, so we stamped on the bleachers. You do what you got to do.
Our drumline used to provide a running commentary of the games, mostly for themselves. And then one day we noticed that the camcorder that the basketball team was using to tape the games was right behind the drum line. And they were a little bit more cautious with their language after that.
The camera's still right behind the drum line now.
There's
The basketball team manager that they found the commentary very entertaining when they were watching the games. At least the lead. Thank you to Neil for providing the 2001 pictures.
Sure, no problem. I couldn't believe I still had them, but I'm a little bit of a digital pack rat, so.
We had a great time looking through them.
Yeah, those are like, I think, the first modern uniforms for the pep band. There you go. That's the first year we marched. I don't know if anyone knows, did you ever find out if there was marching before that? Someone had told us that they had marched in the early 90s or something, but
I didn't hear any information about it.
We marched in the late 70s.
And we certainly did not march up till 71. We didn't know how.
And we didn't march until 75 either. We didn't know how either.
I was going to say that was I remember after 75. Isn't that what Bruce Keith was the I think the president of the football band, and I think he instituted at least an attempt to do some marching in your last year, Judy. No.
Well, actually, I was in London for the fall of my senior year, back when we had an exchange program. So actually, I wasn't here for that fall.
Well, we still play The Impression That I Get. That is still around.
That's basically our theme song at this point.
Yeah.
That's the band's anthem.
It is the theme song.
I love the impression that I get. Playing it at 2:10 at a basketball game this past year, that was insane.
Yeah, so this was the year that the drumline wore Hawaiian shirts.
Whoa, feathers in the hats.
We still have Accidentally in Love in our flip books if it hasn't been taken out since I graduated.
It's still there.
Yeah, that's still there.
That's such a fun
I'm
one.
a believer too, but it's my arrangement instead.
Do we know when the color guard was added?
I thought I remembered 04 being the first year of color guard.
I thought Krista had started it, at least started it back up.
Oh, yeah, it was Krista.
Yeah, so this you can tell that this is the first year of those uniforms that Janelle had because we went from gray pants to black pants.
Also, the signatures are labeled the last year of the Warhorse Regiment.
Yeah.
I'm actually so happy you guys could explain the last year of the Warhorse Regiment, and I needed context.
I think Jace is the master behind
Hey, go back.
performance.
Go back. On so.
So they're playing it on Surge soda bottles.
There's actually a video.
Which was definitely Jace's drink of choice at the
If people want to look for the whole performance, it's on YouTube. It's very exciting to watch.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Jace's YouTube channel has been a great archive for the band.
So I think that is the first year that we lived together in the music house, right? Was 6, 7?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
2006 to
07.
2007 was the first year that it was previously the special interest house on campus, which was any group on campus could apply to kind of live in the house together as an on-campus housing. And so 2006 was Music House was created and filled with the pep band. I think that continued for quite a few years. I'm not sure if you guys still have a Music House on campus.
So
After you,
the music house got shut down a couple of years ago. I'm part of one of the last groups of people that got to live in it. It transitioned from being called the music house to just being called the pep house because it was all pep band people. But there were some changes with Red Services where they took away the kitchen part, and then there was just a little bit less interest in living in a house without a kitchen, and it kind of transitioned away.
Also, the school wanted it for freshman housing because they were taking more freshmen than they had housing for. So they had kind of been gearing up to take both that house and a couple of other themed houses away for a few years. And that was just like the final straw, I guess, the final year that they were able to get before they were able to do it.
I took
Tiffany.
I took over the management of Pep House after you guys switched out of Music House.
I have a fun story about this 2007 Paul Simon show. So we had a really long hold with no movement for a while. So our drum, what are they called? Our drum major Sam made up this move, which was like a sprinkler. We called it the sprinkler move. So it was like a 4-count bob with a figure 8, like swirl back to center, just to fill space and look more interesting while we were doing nothing. It was like one of the most hated moves of the year, but everyone eventually learned to just laugh at it.
It was pretty awful.
I think that
is me in the upper right, the color guard.
Yeah.
I think that's right there in the middle too. That's Sam, who also helps out with the concert band. For anybody who is in.
Really? That's Sam, like the assistant concert band director?
If you go back one slide or forward one slide. I think right there.
Yeah, that's Sam.
Cool.
Oh my God, that's Sam.
And then I think she's also in the next two.
Apparently they did have a pit then. The pit just like disappeared for a few years.
Well, we borrowed the instruments from the concert band, so only
Yeah.
the select-
Sam was tight with the concert band.
Yeah, we borrowed a few instruments, but the pit went extinct for a few years, I guess, and did not come back until 2014.
There's Jace in the middle of the drums, the snare drum to the left.
Oh yeah.
Wow, he looks so young.
I like that the pet polos are almost exactly the same, just like a different color.
So you didn't use an organ in basketball? We had an organ that we would pull out.
Like a keyboard organ?
A huge organ
No, a
with.
huge heart.
How did you get it into Harrington?
It lived there. We just pulled it out. It was under the bleachers.
Oh, they must have gotten rid of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
Where did it go?
I think that was
bring it
the
back.
I think that was the Hammond organ that Bill Tangway actually revitalized.
it was a Hammond organ, and it was pretty old then.
For basketball,
Yeah.
I know you guys were talking about some stories there. And Cheers, do you guys still, as a pep band, and I think I saw Amy's on here who is in pep band with me. During basketball, whenever the other team dribbled, we would say boing. And whenever they passed, we would say woo. And we used to get in some trouble for that. Nothing too major, but that was always just a way to pass the time watching basketball. It was pretty fun.
Boing, boing, boing.
We still do
clarinets.
Yeah.
I know when I was there around like the early 2000s, we were doing that.
2010s.
Or the early 2010s, brain. Yeah, we were doing that. Although I know we were like, if the team got up by a certain amount of points, we would kind of like feel bad. So we'd like, oh, we should stop doing it. So we'd be like, okay, everybody stop doing it. But then the other team would start to come back and be like, wait, start the boink again.
I say that I've not heard anybody do that now.
Oh, sad. Yeah, we
You still do it? I did it.
Yeah, definitely Renee did it.
Renee, I never sat with you.
What about the spirit fingers for free throws?
Yes, that's
You still do that.
still a thing.
That's definitely still a thing. But they never explain it to the freshmen. So freshmen just have to like figure it out as we go.
The tricky bit is not the spirit fingers itself, it's the drumline claps that come afterwards, because those are like variable depending on how many points are being shot. So that's the thing that really needs explaining to freshmen.
But they don't.
And explaining to the rest of the band.
To be fair, we would explain it to the drum line so that the drum line knew how to play it. We at least explained that.
But that doesn't help the rest of us, man.
No, the rest of us just like screaming.
Yeah, I mean, you guys would get mad at us anyway when we changed it up, so I guess, you know, it's okay.
Does anyone know where the Stick It In cheer started for basketball season?
It's a carryover from
From what?
From football, right?
Yeah, we would do it for football when when the football team got close to the end zone.
I think we would do it for both. Yeah.
It was just basically a catchy like drum cheer that could fill some space because there wasn't a lot of drum stuff going on back then.
Now we have like the student section request it.
It's so fun. I just wanted to know where it started.
Yeah,
That's
I think it started in the late 2000s, but I don't know exactly who brought it.
I can tell you that one of the pictures from, I think it was the 2010-2011 school year, had a poster behind the band that said "Stick It In" really big letters.
Oh, excellent.
I get requests constantly for it, no matter what we're doing. Basketball, football, anything. I've gotten texts from old group partners who are like, "Hey, I know you're the drum major. Tell the band to play it." I'm like, "No, but thanks for asking."
Yeah, the football team will be like on the 40-yard line or something, and people will still ask for it. It's like, no, that's the red zone cheer. Come on, guys.
Does anybody know when the Go Fight Win with the standing up and dancing started?
I think that was about the same time as Stick It In. We kind of, the drum line decided they wanted more stuff to do during football games, so they just decided to pull out a few things. Jace could probably tell you, actually. He was probably a driving force behind that.
I think the dancing for that specifically came around 2007 or 8. Because I remember us sitting for a while, and then the flute section kind of got bored, flutes and clarinets. So they were dancing during that, and then we started making it into the tiered thing that it is now of high winds, mid winds, and then low brass standing up for each verse.
That sounds like something that clarinets and flutes would say.
No, that we still like dancing a lot.
Oh yeah. Also, there's the "Stick It In" sign that I was mentioning earlier behind the band.
Well, we never won, so it.
Yes, time.
The football team like never won when we were there. I think the basketball team was pretty good, but whenever the football team actually managed to stick it in, it was always a big moment.
The basketball team was number 2 in the country my senior year, I think. So they got pretty good.
Was that when we had to go down south to Pennsylvania or whatever, and then we would have had to do the same thing the next day if they won?
Not from my year, I don't
I
think.
just want to say that was spoken like a true New Englander calling Pennsylvania the South.
I was about to say, I don't think I've ever heard we had to go down south to Pennsylvania before.
Oh, I'm from Pennsylvania. When I got to WPI, everyone thought I was from Alabama. So
I'm from Virginia. It's still a thing.
It is south of us. But yeah, we
Get down
basically
south to Pennsylvania.
we had to wake up at like 4 to get down to Pennsylvania in time. But the school wouldn't spring for hotel rooms, so if the basketball team won, we had to drive back to Massachusetts that night and then drive back the next morning to play for them again. So we were kind of rooting for them to win because of school pride, but also didn't want to make that trip a second time.
Yeah, Janelle, I think that was 2008, if we're thinking of the same thing. There was also a year I remember we hosted the first round of the Division III tournament, maybe 2005 or 2006 for basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Before they flooded the.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, these are flashy.
Yeah, these are the current uniforms.
It was after the WPI redid their colors and branding stuff. Right around then.
Yeah, they changed from like burgundy and gray to like red and white more. So I think they maybe redid uniforms somewhere around that time also.
So many faces.
And the current uniforms were designed by members of the pep band, so these were a custom designed uniform for W.
Look how we moved from secondhand eBay uniforms to designs.
See, now we're in the range of pictures where I recognize a lot of these people because they were the upperclassmen when I started. It's pretty entertaining to see them.
There's Ben and Aaron with the clarinet sword fight.
Flutes. I thought they were flutes.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Flutes.
Yeah, no, not and all of the trombone hats.
Oh, that's yep. Pretty much everybody.
I know.
Almost everybody. 90% of people we can recognize.
I can't. Yeah, there's a few that I don't recognize, but I recognize a lot of them. Yeah, Tom.
Somebody commented earlier on the pep polos looking like the polo shirts looking the same there. They were actually like made of a totally different material. Like the original polo shirts were was just like a cotton polo shirt. And then the later ones was like I remember like
It is a thinner fabric.
thinner fabric. Yeah. So it basically was like the old pep polos were great for when it was like cold out and you were like traveling across the quad, walking across the quad to the basketball games. But the new ones were much better for like the summer times and standing up.
Wait, what happened to 2014? Was that the last one?
That was the previous slide. Yeah, that was the
clearly not paying attention.
Yep, Invincible.
Okay, they're just on any stands pictures, so there's like no way to recognize faces.
Yeah.
We had a couple gaps between like 2013 and 2016 or 17 where
I'm sure those pictures are out there. They're just maybe harder to find.
They're somewhere, but like you gotta dig to find anything.
Yeah, no, I'm amazed at how well you guys have done coming up with what you have.
I mean, if you guys have any pictures, feel free to send them my way, and I'll be sure to put them at least in our drive.
I unfortunately am a very unreliable picture taker. I probably have a few from 2014, like from the banquet, but that's about it.
I'm a pretty reliable picture taker, so I'll try to put some together.
Send them to Maureen too. She put her email earlier in the chat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think I have
Oh.
the yearbook from my senior year that would have a few pep band pictures that I did not send you, so I can grab those for you.
That picture of the officers in the bottom is actually from about 2012, 2013 or so.
Yeah, 'cause that's Emily Campbell.
Actually, it's not even officers, 'cause that's a mix, huge mix.
Yeah. That might have been a before and after picture if those pictures
They
were there, but
at some.
it's not.
They were all officers. They
Actually, no, maybe not. I don't know.
Paul in the
Yeah.
top picture all the way to the left just got married this spring, and I attended his virtual wedding actually. So that was fun.
Who?
Paul Orvis in the top
Oh, wow.
picture all the way.
Got married?
Paul got married. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sorry. I sent in a lot of these pictures and I didn't put the dates. And I
Yeah.
still don't know if that came through.
We just kind of went with the year of the graduation. We were like, we're just gonna roll with it.
Yeah,
The
so I'd say the
pictures-
range is around 2011 to 2015, yeah. Well, 14, 15. Whatever.
Yeah, that zoo trip was 2011, sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say this zoo trip looks a little before my time, but I suppose getting real dates on a lot of these was probably pretty hard.
Kelsey and Brett in the bottom left one. Christina.
My bad. One of those was Purgatory Chasm, not the zoo. The bottom left was Purgatory Chasm.
Bottom right, you mean?
Right, left, right.
If pep band's there, it's basically
Top right's the zoo.
We were still doing Purgatory Chasm when I was there. That's a great trip. Like a good day trip after post-band camp or something like that.
Remember one year we went to Purgatory Chasm? I think it was my freshman year in 2010 for band camp. We went to Purgatory Chasm and we went into one of the caves in there and we just found these two guys playing didgeridoos in the cave, and they had just been there. I guess there was like this bigger chamber underground in the cave, like in the total darkness, and there's just these two guys playing didgeridoos.
That's quite an aesthetic. Like didgeridoos in a cave in Purgatory.
that sounds like a good show.
The show is so fun.
was a
I
good
think this
show.
is
This
my
is a really
favorite
good
show.
The best part was watching the trumpets have to run like 20 yards and then do a feature like within like 8 counts or something. It was great.
Best part was tenor sax
Yeah,
and
that was
baritone
hilarious.
triangle in front.
Who's doing the marching band choreography now?
Like the drill? That would be, we have Dr. Fussell. I forget where he's from, but
Indiana.
Indiana. And he's writing our drill now. And so that was, I guess, only 2019's show has that currently. But we intend to continue with.
I think this is the biggest that the drumline has ever been. We had 6 basses, 5 snares, 2 quads, and 4 cymbals. I don't think it's ever been that big ever.
This was a pretty good show
Year,
too,
and it sounded
honestly.
fantastic. It was my favorite. It had the best drill.
I mean, the drill did not affect me because I played pit, but it was a very good show just in terms of like, we all want to blast. We're not really about finesse. And this was a great blasting show.
This was boneless pizza, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
this
yes,
was boneless
this
pizza.
So there was a 4-count rest, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it came over with a big, it was 4 counts of rest. And the drum line, when we were learning the music, and during those 4 counts, we yelled "boneless pizza," and it was pretty funny.
That's
That
not at all
picture-
surprising knowing this pep band.
We had to stop doing it because we were making the trumpets laugh too much and they couldn't play their part.
Oh, this was
The year of the Bachelor.
yeah.
When we came back.
Oh, we're in that one. That was the one where we showed up, but we didn't know anybody.
That was my 5-year reunion, and I said, "Hey, it's my 5-year reunion. I want to go back to WPI and march in the parade that year." And yeah, we didn't know anybody.
Yeah, we like showed up and we were just at the meeting place, and whoever was there was really nice and stuff. And they're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
are you? Who are you?" I'm like, "Well, we're here. The pep band. Our instruments are in the car. That's why we don't. Okay, here,
Yeah.
we'll go back and get the instruments now because everyone has anyway."
I remember meeting you guys.
Yeah, I think I remember that too.
That was alumni weekend, right?
Yeah, that was the alumni weekend that summer.
Ooga chaka,
Ooga, 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 chaka. This is a fun
I
show.
showed up for the first drill rehearsal because I had graduated and I was just coming back to help you guys, and I didn't know that was happening, and you guys started playing, and I was quite taken aback.
We started music rehearsal on the first day of band camp, and Ethan just goes, "I need you guys to ooga chaka your guts out." And I was this little freshman, like, what the hell have I signed up for?
Oh.
That's an incredibly large band.
Yeah, this was the year of
This is my
the
senior
freshman
year.
explosion.
Here's 2008.
Is that the year?
That's
And
the
this is
year.
when we got the
Perfect.
Extra chunky
My
band.
freshman year.
Good times.
Nice size
Oh
band.
yeah.
I think my freshman year we had 20, maybe.
We had just shy of 100.
Gosh.
And Rachel actually made those oh my goodness, tuba covers.
The Sousa covers, yeah.
Oh, that was my senior game.
Yeah, you can see the tuba covers then.
Someone needs to pin the T back on the thing, please. Thanks.
So does the band now own more than, 2 instruments, or are students expected to have whatever they play?
Yeah, we own okay. So I think we technically own 4 sousaphones now, though we're getting rid of 5 sousaphones, 2 contras, 4 or 5 marching baritones, 3-ish trombones, tenor sax, 2 tenor saxes,
I think it's 3.
3 tenor saxes, a clarinet, and a few mellophones, I think like 5 or 6 mellophones, and a marimba.
6?
And the pit stuff too, Matt.
Well,
Also the pit and drum and stuff, which I think
And the marimba.
technically Jace's.
Yeah, so
Quite a
the
bit of
only
cover.
non-Jace things were a marimba and a synth.
And you were playing at a hockey game, I saw?
Yeah. Yeah, so the club hockey, it was winter of 2017, 2018. That year, club hockey, women's and men's, they had asked if we could play at them. And we only ended up playing it, I think we only played out a total of 3 because we do basketball season then. But yeah, so we go there and cheer them on, like same as basketball basically, but we also play between their whistles, which if you've been to a hockey game is quite frequent. So we've run through our flip book like really, really fast because we just play like maybe 15-second bits or a couple measures, and then we cut off and we kind of like chunk through the music. And so it's super fast paced and it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. It's one of my favorites, new additions.
Where's the rink?
It's at the Worcester, either at the Worcester Ice Center or there was a different, I think the women's team plays at a different location.
How would you get there?
Where was the one where we were all just like all sitting in like 2 lines?
We get buses to get there. So we have to book buses, kind of like if we do like an away game for RPI or MIT, and we just kind of schlep everyone over there.
You know about the Brown pep band? Brown University? They skate during hockey games between periods.
That's terrifying.
Make it happen.
We were
Let's do
actually
it.
Now
at
that's
one
something
point,
I could get behind.
a year or 2 ago, we got an email basically inviting the pep band to do a show on ice. It wouldn't be like skating, but I think like with special shoes or whatever. But yeah, we did get invited to do pep band on ice at one point.
Imagine carrying base 5 on skates. That would be an experience.
Don't want to do it with your good instrument.
We had a few times that we went and played at, they were the Ice Cats at the time. We played at the DCU Center. That was always fun.
Folks, I think this is a good time. I'd like to get a few group pictures. So if you'll give me your biggest, brightest smile or wave or thumbs up or whatever you feel like doing, that'd be great. I'm going to take a few. I'm going to take a few different pages here. So bear with me just a little bit, please.
Is everybody making their hearts stop?
What?
I was thinking the exact same thing, Tiffany.
It's a classic
Thank you, everybody.
8 era Mike 2-ism.
Group pictures are really different on Zoom. Not quite the same effect.
So we will be able to share this recording, and Katie will figure out a way to share your slide presentation. It's pretty large, but we'll figure that out so everybody can see it a little better up close too.
I hope that those of you who are out of school or about to be are able to continue playing your instruments in some way or form. I don't know if you are, but it's such a great way to, as you know, to meet people and become.
A couple of us are in a community band together, so.
I bounce around between about like 4 different bands and have been learning flute over the summer via like Skype lessons, which is really cool.
And if you play a brass instrument or color guard or percussion, there's always drum corps, and Connecticut has a drum corps, an all-age drum corps. So you should definitely.
It's the Connecticut Hurricanes. They're always looking for new members.
Been playing in a swing band for 20 years until COVID, but such is life.
Yeah, speaking of swing band, so we were. I have to sort of include this little adjacent bit here. So we actually had a small group of WPI people to get together every other week around 5 o'clock, and I asked them somewhere in the 73, 74 period, we relit the WPI stage band. And this was before there was the whole jazz program started at WPI. So we started it as just sort of a club with a few bucks to buy some big band charts. I guess it continued on, and it obviously got launched into something much more serious now. But just a sort of a shout out to all those people from the pep band and the pep band, I guess, that sort of got together and let's do a stage band. So that's where that got started too.
It must have been student led then, Bruce?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because my freshman year was the first year someone was hired to direct it.
Right, yeah. Was that when was it
Rich Falco?
I'm gonna forget. Is that
Falco.
Rick Falco?
It was
Yeah.
Rich Falco.
I think he just retired.
Falco, he was an icon for a long time.
Yeah.
He was an assistant part-time professor back then. Young.
Man had a killer mustache.
Oh my God, he was such a cat.
So earlier, someone discovered that they had worked at ARP with Bruce. I didn't catch whose name it was, but perhaps the record for pep band alumni working together was also involved Bruce. There were 4 of us from the basketball band that worked together at Teradyne in Boston.
Yeah, good memory. That's right.
Yeah, it was Bruce, me, Tim Higgins, and Bruce Keith.
I know after we graduated, I think there were 5 who went to work at Hanover Insurance for a few years altogether.
I think there was a similar number.
And couples here, right?
It's so fun. It's really like cute that we have like pep band couples here from 75 to 2013 and every all the way up through people who graduated a few years ago and everything. It's cute.
Just as a reminder for all the alumni, if you want to make sure that you're on our list for PEP alumni to get all the emails, please send me your email. I've put it through the chat a couple times, like what my email is. Like if you can just send me an email, that'd be easier than if everybody starts spamming me through the chat with emails. And also just make my name my email now. Just so we can make sure that we can get in contact with you guys easily in the future. There's my email.
Wait again.
Katie, do you want to come back to you for any parting final words? It's just about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, well, first off, it was really amazing hearing everyone's stories. I had no clue from just reading things about our bands, and I don't think I could have figured that out from just reading. Like, the people are what make it what we are. And yeah, I really hope you guys stay in contact with us. At some point last year, we were pitching doing like an alumni newsletter. So like if anyone would want that, like reach out to us and we can start doing that. Yeah, thank you all for coming, and hopefully we get to do another event like this at some point, because it was really great seeing all of you.
Thank you so much for setting it up. Fun.
Thank you all for sharing stories. It was really cool to hear them all. And again, a special thanks to everyone who sent me pictures. I'm very much appreciative.
Well, I guess that's a wrap for this evening then. Thank you, Katie, for putting this together for all of the alumni. It was really nice. Great job. A lot of fun. And I hope to see all you alumni at a virtual event in the near future. We have lots more to go this week for homecoming week. If we don't have your up-to-date email, I ask that you please send it along to us at the alumni office at alumni-office@wpi.edu. And then Katie and I are sharing all of our lists for PEP band. So make sure that we all have you coded as PEP band members. Let me know if you're a member or not, or if you're just here to enjoy the fun. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much. This is great.
Stay well.
Bye.
Keep playing.